Okay, good morning everybody, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning. Chodesh Tov, Hanukkah Sameach to all, as we are studying Perashat Vayigash. And I want to discuss a very interesting pasuk right in the beginning of our parasha. I mean, our parashiot, everyone, they're just filled with emotion. There's no way that you could read it and not cry, even if it's the second, third, fourth time. Just started 2 weeks ago with the brothers and Yosef and selling him. And then last week, Parashat Miketz, filled with all the drama of Yosef knowing them, but them not knowing him, and they finally come and ask for food, and this is his chance to take revenge, and instead of exacting revenge from them, he just is showering kindness and giving them food, but he's also messing with them. He's planting goblets in their bags, and he's putting money back, and he's kind of saying, oh, I know this, I know that, as if he sees the future, and he's just messing with them. And the brothers are so confused, they're very haunted, they're just bothered, they're perplexed, they're suffering, they're what in the world is going on? Okay, that was last week's parasha. And finally, last week's parasha ended with the brothers agreeing to bring down Binyamin. Yosef says, I want to see your brother, bring him down, don't come even there asking for food if you don't bring him. And the brothers need more food, so they have no choice. They bring Binyamin, and Yehuda, by the way, himself takes responsibility to bring back Binyamin to Yaakov's lap, so to speak. And Yaakov says, okay, take Binyamin. And the brothers go down. They see Yosef. It's a very friendly encounter and meeting. Okay, went well. And all of a sudden, Yosef secretly has his private personal goblet planted in Binyamin's knapsack. And as the brothers are heading back home, okay, we made it. And they're excited, they're ready to go back home with more food and safe. And all of a sudden, somebody comes running after them and says, whoa, why do you do such horrible things to someone who has been so kind to you? And they're like, what are you talking about? What horrible things did we do? I say, listen, is that nice that you should steal my master's goblet? Okay, and they're like, what are you talking about? We didn't take a goblet. And he says, listen, I know you guys took it. Let me check. So, right, look at this pasuk over here. Last week's parasha, chapter 44, pasuk 7. Vayomru lama yedaber Adoni kedvarim eleh. Why do you say such horrible words? Chalila lavadecha. God forbid that we would take it. Even the money that we had extra, we returned. You think we're going to steal new stuff? Whoever stole it, how about this? This is what the brothers suggest. Whoever stole the goblet, vamit, let him be killed. And we'll also be servants for you. Vayomer, and the messenger says, okay, whatever you say. So each one opens up and he starts. Vayhapes bagadol, he begins at the oldest, and then he ends with the youngest. And sure enough, when he gets to the youngest, when he gets to Binyamin's bag, what does he find? He finds the goblet. Okay. And they rip their clothing in a sign of mourning. I mean, it's crazy stuff over here. And we wonder, why is Yosef doing this really? What is he getting at? Okay? I mean, one of the most famous questions on these parashiyot, and we're not going to go into that right now, but just a question for you to think about, food for thought. Why doesn't Yosef send a messenger to his father that he's alive? You know your father is suffering. You know your father is crying. You know your father is sitting mourning for you for 20 years. Send him a messenger. Tell him you're okay. Yosef does no such thing. For 7 years, not a single word. He's king for 7 years. Okay? You want to tell me when he was a slave, he didn't have the power. Okay. Now you have the power. I've got the power, right? You have the power. Yosef doesn't do it. The question that I'm going to leave you with, I'm not going to answer today, but why? Why doesn't Yosef do it? And you see, again, he's just playing with them and torturing them, okay? And doesn't seem something that Yosef had tzaddik, titled tzaddik, okay? Capital tzaddik, would do. Okay, anyways, the brothers realize they're guilty, that Binyamin stole the goblet. And it's interesting, we don't know what they said to him. They didn't tell him like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You got us all in trouble. They didn't even scream at Binyamin, according to the text. They ripped their clothing and they walked back to Egypt. They walked back ready to become slaves forever. And Vayomer lahim Yosef, Yosef says to them, Ma ha'ma'aseh hazeh, how could you do this to me? Don't you know that I can tell the future? Don't you know that I can, you have sorcery? And Yehuda says, what can we say? We are guilty, etc., etc. Okay, that's last week. So we begin our parasha, Vayigash. What does Vayigash mean? Vayigash means to approach. Okay, geshna, come approach, come closer. Vayigash. So now imagine all of the brothers are standing in a line, and then Yehuda steps forward. Vayigash elav Yehuda. Yehuda steps up, and he says, please, Yedaberna avdecha davar be'ozen. Let me just talk to you for a minute. Let me tell you something. Yedaberna avdecha davar be'ozne adoni. Ve'ali harapecha be'avdecha ki chamocha keparo. Okay? Okay. So according to this, it's very simple. He comes to Yosef and he says, let me just have a word with you. However, we look in the commentaries. What do the commentaries say? The commentaries say, let's read Rashi as an example. He says, Sofcha lilkot alav betzaraat. You are one day going to get leprosy. Just like your grandpa Paro, right? Paro, before you got leprosy for taking my grandma Sarah. Wow, okay. It's very aggressive. Or, just like Paro decrees and doesn't do anything about it, I promise you, right? And he promises he didn't do anything about it, so too you. You just said you want to see Binyamin, but you're a liar. You didn't want to see Binyamin. You had your intentions all along that you wanted to enslave us. And if you even start with me, I'm going to kill you. Over here, Yehuda is going to town on this guy in front of him, who is Yosef. He doesn't know it. And Yehuda is very, very, very strong over here. He's like a lion, and he's ready to fight. He's ready to kill if he has to. Is this understandable? It's understandable. It's understandable. His brother's about to get taken as a slave. He took responsibility for his brother. And so Yehuda here is ready to fight for his brother's freedom. So it's very understandable that he should be aggressive. Here's the problem. Everybody with me? Here's the problem. Go back 2 weeks ago. 2 psukim ago. Last week at the end of the parasha, just go back 2 Pesukim. Let's read together. Chapter 44, Pasuk 16, 2 Psukim ago. Vayomer Yehuda, we read it just 5 minutes ago. Vayomer Yehuda, Manomar Ladoni, what are we going to say? How can we justify? How can we excuse ourselves? Ha-Elohim matzah et avon avadecha. God found us guilty. Hinenu avadim ladoni. We are hereby slaves. Kama anachnu, us, and the one that the goblet was found in his knapsack. So 2 psukim ago, Yehuda's reaction. What was Yehuda's reaction just 2 verses ago? Very friendly, very understanding. We are guilty. You're 100% in the clear. You're right. We are slaves, and he's going to be a slave. We're all slaves. And then about 2 psukim later, just 2 verses later, at the beginning of our parasha, it's like, what's going on over here? It doesn't make sense. How could you do this? Right? Okay? It sounds like Yehuda is just going from polar to polar, from one extreme to the other. Okay? And what is going on? How can Yehuda begin last week saying, you're right, we're guilty, and then this week he says, what's going on is unfair, you're just trying to accuse us? What changed from last week to this week? Okay? And again, it's not, 1 week changed. He had a week to think about it. We read the Pesukim a week apart, but they happened right after each other. So what happened in between the 2 verses? Is that a good question? Question clear? Why was Yehuda last week so understanding, and this week he becomes a different animal? He becomes very aggressive. This is the question of the Or HaHayim HaKadosh, who we've been quoting often. And this is actually from Rabbi Isaac Bernstein, and he quotes the Ora Hayim. The Ora Hayim is actually in last week's Perasha. Okay? So please join me, everybody. And let's read together, if I may. Let's read together the Ora Hayim. What can we say? How can we speak? This is last week when Yehuda is very understanding. The expression Amirah refers to mild talk. Amirah means to speak softly. Whereas Dibur is aggressive, tough. Yeah? Kotomar lebet Yaakov v'taged lebnei Yisrael. God says to Moses when he gives the Torah, to the women, Tomar, you have to speak in a soft manner. To men, Daber. Men understand that they speak a different language. Okay? So when you're speaking to, you have to know who you're talking to. So the word Amirah, Vayomer, is soft. Dibur is hard. And there's many examples in this. When the brothers said, Man nitztadak, how can we justify ourselves? They referred to their defense in a court of law. They considered that all these trumped up charges were retribution by God. The time apparently had come to pay for their guilt. Inasmuch as they were all guilty vis-a-vis God, they offered themselves as slaves. So the Ora Hayim begins, and he says that you know why Yehuda last week, in the two verses ago, Yehuda was very understanding. Yehuda was very okay with becoming a slave. Says the Ora Hayim. Because look what he says in the Pasuk. Ha'Elohim matza et avon avatecha. God found us guilty for our sin that we committed. Yosef, this has nothing to do with you. This is God's doing. This is God over here punishing us for a sin that we once upon a time committed. Which sin did the brothers once upon a time commit? Give it a couple of seconds. Please feel free to write in your answers. Which sin did the brothers commit that they're realizing that they're guilty now for? Very good. The sale of Yosef. And so last week, he says, we're guilty. We sold Yosef. Manitz dadak. And how can we justify? Says the Ora Hayim. They refer to the disastrous discovery of the goblet in Benjamin's pouch. This fact had destroyed their collective defense, that they have already proven their honesty by having returned the money. So basically, they have no justification. The fact that you were once honest by returning the money, you made a hole in that bag as well by stealing the goblet. The fact that you are guilty now. Yeah, I didn't explain why Yosef didn't message his dad. We didn't explain that, okay? And I appreciate the caps lock. I understand your frustration, okay? I said we're not going to answer that question in this class today, okay? We're not going to answer that, okay? We're not going to answer that. Okay, fine. We're not going to answer that question. But we're coming back. Maybe one day we'll talk about that. Right now, we're on a different question. We're on, why was Yehuda last week understanding? Says the Ora Hayim, because last week, two psukim ago, he says, we're guilty. Perush, gam anachnu, even us. By the way, let's recap. All the brothers were there. Which one was the goblet in? The stolen goblet of Joseph. Which one was it in? Who stole the goblet? Stole the goblet? Binyamin, the youngest one. Okay? The brothers, though, are saying to Yosef, even us, the other 11, we didn't steal the goblet. Also, we are guilty. Meaning, now as far as the reason we are guilty, that's because we sold Yosef. But one second, there was one brother that wasn't part of the sale of Yosef. Which brother wasn't there? If we're all guilty here because of the sale, which brother wasn't at the sale? There's one brother who didn't sell Yosef, and that is Binyamin. And that's what the brothers here are saying. Gam asher nimtza hagavia biyado. Even the one who you found the goblet in his pack, he's also going to get punished. Even him, even though he wasn't at the sale of Joseph. Why? Al derech omram, because there is a rule in Judaism. And you know what that rule is? Oy la rasha, oy l'shcheno. Woe to the bad person and woe to his neighbor. If you're going to punish one person for something that he did wrong, you need to know that everyone that's with him is going to get punished as well, even if the other people are not guilty. I'll give you an example of this. This is Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin. Shnei etzim yeveshim. If you have two dry pieces of wood and one wet piece of wood. Now you take a match and you try lighting a wet piece of wood. Will it go on fire? It will not. Okay? If you ever made a campfire, if you ever went camping, you know this. Okay? Vekevan, however, once you take the two pieces of wood and you add the third wet one and then you light the dry ones on fire, what's going to happen to the wet piece of wood? It's going to be consumed by the fire as well. That means you could have a person in life who's sometimes not guilty, but if he associates, if he's with people who are guilty, he's going to get punished with them. Okay? This is a famous Rashi in Perashat, I believe, Bo, when there was Makat Bechorot, and Rashi says, make sure to stay in the house. Because if you're out there in the streets, just like the Egyptians are getting killed, even though you're not an Egyptian, even though you're not guilty, if you are with guilty people, you will be punished along with them. Okay? So this is the rule of association. This is the rule of osmosis. This is the rule that a person cannot just walk out into the middle of a war zone and just say, I'm fine. Can't say that. If you're going to put yourself with people who are getting killed, you're going to get killed along with them. And therefore, Binyamin, is he guilty or innocent for the sale of Yosef? Binyamin is innocent. He didn't do anything wrong. He's like a wet piece of wood. But he's with 11 dry pieces of wood and he's going to get burned. He is going to get hurt as well. So, sucks to be you, Binyamin. Sorry, my friend. You're with us and you're getting punished as well. Okay. Now, that is last week. או ירצה שלא יבין שעודם בדעת ראשון שאמרו אשר ימצא אותו ומת גם אנחנו. Okay, אור החיים continues over here. However, what changes? You know what changes? So far, are we clear? So far, we're good. We're building it up. Last week, 2 psukim ago, punished. We're guilty for the sale of Yosef. Binyamin wasn't guilty, but he's part of us. And therefore, sorry, man, you're also getting punished. Okay. But then, you know what happened from 2 psukim ago to this week? 1 pasuk happened. And look at the 1 pasuk in between. Look at the 1 pasuk in between, my friends. Pasuk 17. Vayomer. But then Yosef says, Halila li me'asot zot. God forbid for me to do this. Ha'ish asher nimtza gavia beyado. No. I'm not going to punish all the yous. No. I'm going to punish the one guy that had the goblet. Hu yihye li aved. He'll be for me a slave. Ve'atem alu leshalom lavichem. And the rest of you, go back to your father's house. You're all innocent. All I want is Binyamin. And this is what triggers Yehuda. Because what Yosef is in essence saying, let's read the Or HaHayim. Joseph meant that even if it were true that God was using this opportunity to punish the brothers for some other sin, even if it's true that maybe you're guilty for the sale of your brother, I don't know who that guy is anyways, right? Wink, wink. I don't know who that brother is. But even if it's true that you're guilty for selling your brother Yosef, I am not authorized nor competent to administer such retribution. I am only authorized to deal with guilt, which was obvious right here, right now in front of me. That's what Yosef is saying. And therefore, I am entitled to judge the person in whose possession the goblet had been found. The brothers are free to go home, and I'm only punishing Binyamin. And so what Yosef was basically saying is, you think I'm being over here God's messenger to punish you for what once upon a time happened 20 years ago with some sale? No. I am judging this case and this case alone. And I don't care what God is decreeing with you. That's none of my business. I am looking at this specific scenario. So Yosef thought by allowing them to all go, and by keeping only Binyamin as a slave, he actually thought he was making things better. He thought he was appeasing Yehuda. He felt certain that Yehuda had accepted the verdict. How was he to know that Yehuda would immediately begin to lambast him, as is evident in the following verses? But says the Ora Hayim, if that's the case, because Yosef says, no, only Binyamin stay, the rest of you go, that was a big, eye-opening statement for Yehuda. According to our view, says the Ora Hayim, Yehuda reasoned with Yosef as long as he felt that they were all being punished for something they had done in the past. Yehuda was playing nice because it's not you. It's all Hashem. Anyways, God's the one that's punishing us. You're just a puppet. You're a loser. You're a nobody. This has nothing to do with you, Mr. King. This has something to do with we sold our brother 20 years ago. So I'm not even angry at you. I accept Hashem's verdict. But when he realized that the innocent Binyamin was the only one who was going to be punished here and is being singled out for punishment, whereas they, the guilty ones, were allowed to go free, he realized that he did not confront divine judgment. He realizes that what's going on over here is not coming as a punishment for what they did with the sale of Yosef. This has nothing to do with Hashem. Rather, Yosef was being a capricious ruler who was framing Binyamin for reasons of his own. כשראו שלא קיבל יוסף אלא בנימין לבד, אמר הרי זה לך לאות כי לא על עוון נתפסו. Says Ora Hayim, it must be that we're not being punished for our sin. ומעתה עמד הדבר לצד בחירת הבחירי. Do those words ring a bell with all of you? It must be rather that he is acting out of his own free will. Remember this? This is the famous Ora Hayim from just a couple of weeks ago when the brothers threw Yosef in the pit, and we asked, why are they throwing him in a pit which is filled with snakes? And the Ora Hayim over there said that Reuven's philosophy was, if we kill him, we have free will. Maybe we're acting more cruel than he deserves because we have Bechira. And that he's using the same exact idea over here. And therefore, the brother Yehuda realizes there was therefore no cause for the brothers to submit to what they had previously considered as divine retribution. Till now, we thought that we're all getting punished for our sin of the sale of Yosef. But now we realize that if you're singling out Binyamin, it has nothing to do with the sale. It has everything to do with your cruelty. And if that's the case, Lazeh, let's read us the next pasuk. Vayigash elav Yehuda. And therefore, Yehuda now steps up. And Yehuda is ready to go to town. Yehuda is ready to destroy. He's ready to kill. He's ready to do everything. Because you're acting not as God's agent. You're acting out of your own thoughts. You're acting with Bechira. If this is you, then if I may, I would like to argue this, Mr. King. Okay? So this is an amazing way of understanding. Look at, by the way, we often speak too freely about judging the brothers and they were bad people, and we talk about them like they were us. We talk about them like they were our friend, our level, regular guys, regular brothers. Has v'shalom, the brothers were so pious. Look at this, 20 years later, and they're still throwing it back to what they did. They're always asking themselves the question, what we did, are we being maybe punished by God? Imagine that happened to us. Imagine somebody today comes by and he hits your car. And you look at your dent, huge dent, your brand new car, your brand new lease. Now it's going to have to go 3 weeks to the shop and you're so annoyed. And what do? You look at the guy, you say, sir, it has nothing to do with you. This is God. I remember 6 years ago when I was in high school, there was a guy and I insulted him. And this is God's way of paying me back. Right? Who thinks like that? Have a nice day. You want my insurance? No, please, I don't need your insurance. Maybe you want mine. Did I dent you? Right? Who would say that? This is what the brother said. And so they are on a very high level of emunah and bitachon and connection with Hashem, realizing that if there's something going on in their lives, it has to be because of a prior sin, not just yesterday or a week ago, but actually a 20-year-old sin. Okay? There's only one question that Rabbi Bernstein has, which he doesn't answer, and maybe with your permission, I'd like to suggest an answer. Okay? But let us see the question that he asks. Okay? To understand the question, let us go back to Perashat Miketz, chapter 42, Pasuk 21. Okay? Chapter 42, Pasuk 21 is right in the middle of it when the brothers are there, and it's a very simple system. You need food, okay? You come down to Egypt, you give the guy your money, he gives you the food, okay? Did you ever see the Soup Nazi episode of Seinfeld? Okay? It's a very simple system. You walk in, you don't make eye contact, you say exactly what you want. I'll get this soup, please. You put the money down, you walk to the left, you wait for your soup, and then you leave, right? It's a very simple system, and you get to eat the best soup in the world, okay? And the brothers come down, they put their money, they don't make eye contact, they move to the left, and all of a sudden, this guy Yosef starts asking questions, and he's interested. Nobody gets complications like this. Of course, it's always the Jew that has, to be interrogated. The brothers get interrogated. They get interrogated, and he wants to put one of them in jail, and he puts all of them in jail for 3 days. And the third day, he brings them out, and he says, if it's true that you're all innocent and you're not spies, then I'm going to keep one of you in jail, and the rest of you take the food to your brothers, to your family, and bring your younger brother. Okay? So last week, this is again Yosef messing with them. Yosef, he's just playing around, and he keeps Shimon in jail, and he says to the rest of them, go back home and bring your younger brother that you speak of. Vayomru ish el achiv, Pasuk 21. The brothers say to each other, Aval Hashemim anachnu, but we are guilty. To each other they're saying this. We're guilty. We deserve this. Why? Why do we deserve this? Alahinu, because of what we did to our brother. Which brother? Yosef. Asher ra'inu tzaran nafsho, because we saw his pain. Behitchaneno eleinu, when he was begging us for mercy. Velo shamanu, but we didn't answer. We didn't hear. We didn't care. When we were throwing Joseph in the pit, and he was begging us, and we didn't care. Al ken ba'a elenu hatzara hazot. And therefore, God is punishing us now, many years later, for what sin? For how we treated Yosef. So the Or HaHayim over here, he has a very, very beautiful question. Okay? He says like this. The brothers over here are now introspecting. The brothers are realizing that they're all in jail. And they say, listen, why is God doing this to us? And it must be because we're guilty. Now, if I pause, 1 second, pause. And if I ask you all, what sin were the brothers guilty for? Please write it down. Very simple answer. What sin are the brothers guilty for? If they are introspecting and they are wondering, what did we do wrong many years ago that we deserve this punishment from Hashem? What's the answer? The answer should be, we sold Yosef. But is that what the brothers write? Or is that what the Pasuk says? Does the Pasuk say that the brothers realize that they're guilty for selling Yosef? It doesn't say that. What does it say? It says we're guilty because we didn't have compassion and pity when we threw him in the pit. And ask the Or HaHayim, why did they go to that? Why didn't they just simply say we're guilty for the sale? Good question. Good question. No. The brothers don't say the sale. The brothers say we're guilty for not having mercy on him when we threw him in the pit. Why? Says the Or HaHayim, you know why? Because they were going to say for the sale. They were about to say, this is a punishment for the sale. But they found a problem with that. They introspected and they realized this can't be a punishment for the sale. Why? Because there's actually one brother here who didn't sell Yosef. Which brother was there the first time that didn't sell Yosef? Says the Or HaHayim, Mitzad Reuven. Reuven wasn't at the sale. Where was Reuven? Reuven was taking care of the father. So when he comes back actually, and he realizes that Yosef was sold, he rips, and he says, what am I going to do? Right? So the brothers over here, that they're introspecting, and they're saying, why are we getting punished? Oh, maybe it's for the sale. No, it can't be for the sale, because Reuven wasn't at the sale. So it has to be something else. They think, it's for not having mercy. And was Reuven there for that? He was. It must be that we're guilty. Perush meaning, says the Orahim. It's true. If we're guilty for the sale, then we have a problem to that because of Reuven, who wasn't at the sale. But as far as vis-a-vis seeing the pain of Yosef begging not to be thrown in the pit, but Reuven was there with them at that point. Actually, it was Reuven's idea to throw him in the pit. How, right? He was the one that said throw him in the pit. And therefore, obviously Yosef begged for his life not to be thrown in the pit, because he was afraid, falling deep. People don't realize just falling could kill you. All of the dust and the sut, whatever. And also snakes and scorpions. And death, hunger, starvation, thirst is the worst type of death. I mean, every possible death. Sekila, serefa from the snake, right? Hunger. Ve'yahanen kolo lahem. I'm trying to figure out if it's all four mitaz of bedin, but I can't think of it right now. But he's falling that sekila, and he's getting bitten by his snakes. That's serefa. Okay, if you could come up with hereg and henek, I would love to hear. Either way, and they didn't care. And Reuven was guilty with them on this, and therefore they say, that's why that's why we have this punishment. Unbelievable. So the brothers last week, when they are first encountering Yosef and he's messing with them, they introspect and they could go back, and they start thinking, what are we guilty for over here? And they say, maybe it's the sale, but they say, no, it can't be the sale. Why not? Because Reuven wasn't at the sale. Oh, it must be because of that, right? But one second, ask for Bernstein. Whoa, you, Ora Haim, just taught us this week that Binyamin was being punished along with the brothers, even though he wasn't guilty, because of the rule of association. You could sometimes burn even though you're a wet twig and you're innocent because of the dry twigs around you. So if that's what you say by Binyamin, why doesn't the Ora Hayim also say it by Reuven? Maybe you're getting punished for the sale, and even though Reuven wasn't technically guilty for the sale, but because he's associating, he's also getting punished. It's a great question, and he leaves it at a question. He doesn't really provide an answer to this question. With your permission, I think maybe, again, this is my answer. I'm just thinking right now, I'm out loud, and I'm sharing with you my thoughts. And again, please feel free to, if you're listening live, to just post the comments, or if you're listening to this on a recording, then maybe you could email me if you have a thought, or maybe an answer to this question, or maybe a knockout to my answer. But either way, I would like to offer an answer, and that is that the rule of association is only when you have no other option. If there's no other option, if you can't think of any other possible thing that you did wrong, then we'll say the rule of association. Meaning, this week, there's nothing else that we could be guilty of. We can't think of any better answer, so we're going to throw the book on Binyamin, and we're going to say that Binyamin is also guilty. Even though he's innocent, he's going to get burned with us. But last week, the brothers who are going through the different crimes, when you do have something to lay the guilt on, when you do have another reason of why the person should be found guilty, then you can't play the association card. So the brothers last week were saying, we're trying to figure it out. So they said, listen, maybe we're guilty for the sale. No, but one second. Reuven wasn't at the sale. Okay, let's think if there's anything else. If there's something else, then that will be it. And maybe if there's nothing else, then we'll come back and we'll give the association answer. Okay, but the brothers first have to go. There's a system of introspection. There's an order of first having to go through all the other answers. And if you have no other answer, then maybe you could go back to that first answer. You know what it's kind of like? The Gemara says that if a person, God forbid, is experiencing tragedy, experiencing suffering, okay, Yisurin, this is Masechet Berachot, then he should first introspect and see if he has any sins. If he doesn't have sins, then he should introspect further and say maybe it's for Bitul Torah, for his time of wasting from studying of Torah. If he introspects even more and he doesn't even see that, then he needs to know that it's Yisurin Shel Ahava, that it's infliction of love. Okay? But you can only say that answer if you went through all the other answers. Okay? If you knocked off, if you crossed out the fact that it's coming because what you did of one of your sins. If you crossed out the fact that it's coming because of Bitul Torah. If you have no other excuse, then a person could say that God is inflicting me for ahava, be out of a sign of love. And again, I don't want to get too deep into what that means, even such a complicated concept. And even many of the rabbis didn't want Yisurin Shel Ahava. They said, I don't want them and I don't want their reward. But the point I'm just trying to bring out is that there's a process here of elimination. Okay? So the brothers cannot say the rule that of association that Reuven's getting punished with them because he's with them, unless you cross out and you eliminated every other possible option. Okay? So the brothers have to first see, is there anything else that we're guilty of? And they did. They found. They said, we're guilty for what? We're guilty for not having mercy on Yosef. And for that, Reuven is also guilty. Okay, Reuven's guilty for that. And therefore, they said it must be for that we're getting punished. We're not gonna claim that it's a punishment for the sale if we have a better alternative answer. So I think this is a nice answer to the question of Rav Bernstein on the Orah Hayim. Again, if you have any arguments on my answer, please let me know. But I think the message is very clear and very beautiful, and that is that in life, sometimes there are things going on. Sometimes there are things happening to us, and it's very easy for us to wave the innocent flag and to claim and to plead that we're innocent and I didn't do anything wrong, and why is everyone hating on me, and why is everyone mean to me, and why is everyone bothering me, and why is no one my friend, and why am I not making money, and why am I not finding a shidduch, and why am I not having kids, and why, right? Very easy in life to like maybe the brothers and to say about ourselves, I'm innocent, I'm like Reuven, I'm like Binyamin, I don't do anything wrong. We all like to be Binyamin in life, right? We all like to be like Binyamin, that I didn't do anything wrong, and it must be I'm just getting punished because I'm part of the evil brothers, or it's my mazal, or we blame other things. We blame other people, we blame other situations, we blame it's the people around me. I'm getting punished for them. Right? We all love to be Binyamin. But we have to remember that we could only say that if we've exhausted and eliminated all other possibilities. And the brothers themselves had to do this last week. And they played this process of elimination game. And they realized that maybe Reuven, who at first wanted to plead, I'm innocent, I didn't tell him, I'm a good guy. But then they said, let's think a little bit further. And the brothers did, and they introspected even more. And they realized, you know what? Maybe Reuven's not so innocent. Because you're innocent for that. But what about this? Are you innocent for this? Come on, Reuven. Maybe you didn't tell him, but you heard him crying in the pit. You heard him begging for his life. Over there, you're guilty. So again, I think it's a tremendous musar for all of us to really be able to dig deep and to really think when things aren't going the way we would like them to. Okay, it's hard to do this because nobody likes to think and to see themselves as guilty. Okay, I'm sure you've all read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends. And right in the beginning, he gives all these examples of the people who, even the biggest crooks in the world, the biggest mob, gangsters, murderers, every single one of them, they thought that they were God's gift to the world. Right under this coat, there is a beautiful bleeding heart. Right, we all think that we're beautiful and innocent in our eyes, and we are all beautiful. But maybe if we're honest, and it takes a lot of honesty and a lot of vulnerability to be able to admit and to say, maybe there's something that I need to do better. Maybe it's something that I should change. Maybe something that I should try fixing. Maybe I should try to adapt a little bit, right? You see this a lot of times when people that are in the dating stages of life and they're not sure, why does no one like me? The people out there must be blind. The girls are so picky. The guys are blind. What's going on? And maybe, and also maybe we should try to see if there's something that we can adjust a little bit. Maybe it's something that we have to change or do better. And we need to have that chaver. We need to have that rav. We need to have that person around us that we can speak to, that we can ask for advice, that we can talk to them and say, listen, give me your honest evaluation. What do you think about me? Maybe it's something that I should try doing differently. Maybe you could listen to my speeches. Tell me maybe it's something that I should adjust in my speech. Maybe it's something that I should adjust in my sales pitch. Maybe it's something that I should adjust in how I handle myself with other people. Give me your honest evaluation. And because I think I'm like Binyamin. I think I'm innocent. I think I didn't do anything wrong. But I think if we dig deeper, we'll find that sometimes we're a little bit more like Reuven, and we all have our skeletons. We all have dirty laundry. There's nobody today that could really say, oh, I'm perfect. We all try our best, and we're all overall good people. But we all use a little bit tweaking here and there. And again, it's always hard to admit this to ourselves. But ultimately, the greatest beneficiaries will only be us if we're able to find the integrity and the honesty to become a little bit vulnerable, to be able to put ourselves out there, to accept criticism from other people. I know right away when we receive criticism, the first answer is yes, no, whatever, you didn't understand, it's not like that, okay, please, I know what I'm doing, I'm very successful, right? We don't like to hear criticism. But, the truth is, Achacham, hocheach lechacham, veyehaveka. Shlomo HaMelech says, a wise man loves to hear it. It's hard to hear it, but he loves to hear it. Please, Rabbi, wife, honey, husband, tell me what I'm doing wrong. If I were to ask all of you, okay, I want to play a game right now for a few seconds. I know it's late. I want to play a game, okay? Could you list 3 things? I'm going to wait 60 seconds, okay? We're not rushing anywhere right now. List 3 things that would make your marriage better. Okay? 60 seconds. I'm not talking. Okay, go. Da na 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 na. Da na 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 na. Da na 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 na. Dum ba dum bum 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 bum. Da na. Please don't write it, by the way. I do not want to know. Okay, just for yourself. Da na 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 na. No, I'm serious. I want you to think of 3 things that would make your marriage better. Just to yourself. Don't tell me. I'm not going to ask you. Okay? And then, by the way, if you're not married, then just, alter the question to what would make your relationship with your parents better. Okay? There you go. That's a good one. If you're single, what would make the relationship with your parents better? Okay, a few more seconds. Okay. Now, here's the funny thing. Whatever you answered, okay, look down at your list. Most of the time, the answers that people write is what their spouse should start changing. If my wife would be a little bit more, if my husband would start doing a little bit, if my parents would just give me the space, right? That's usually 3 out of the 3 things that you listed had to do with the other people. Changing, other people fixing, other people doing. Right? Very few people are able to say, my marriage, no one thinks like that. Right? No one says, my marriage would be better if I would actually put my phone away at dinner. My marriage would be better if I would actually be a little bit more understanding of my spouse's needs and give them the respect that they did. Right? No one says I. Most of the answers, it's an amazing, amazing study, but it's the truth. Always we feel like the mistakes, the problems that we go through in life are the ones around me. I'm getting punished because of the brothers around me. I'm innocent myself, technically, but it requires a lot of courage to be able to look inward and to say, it's me. Aval Ashemim Anachnu. We are guilty. Not just us, but even you, Mr. Reuven, because you also have your stuff. Okay, we all have stuff. And again, if we are wise, we will listen to the rebuke. We will accept it. We will look for it. We will search, because we will be the beneficiaries. Okay, we will be, I'm sure we all, wherever we are today in life, I know I am. It's because of the criticism that I have received. Maybe it wasn't easy to swallow it. Maybe sometimes I didn't receive it in such a nice way. But ultimately, we are the ones that grow from such things. Okay, we'll stop over here, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Chodesh Tov, Hanukkah Sameach, and have a wonderful week ahead. God willing, we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.